Hi, Summer. I'm going to give people a few minutes to hop on, but if one of you want to let me know in the chat, did you guys get the emails from Eventbrite telling you where the join link was? Always trying to test out new technology, and it's fun, but sometimes things don't go as they're supposed to. So I was just wondering, because we were originally here waiting for a little bit, seeing if you guys were going to join us all. So I'll give people a few minutes to hop in. We're starting a little bit late because of that. But let me know in the chat if you guys were able to see an email from Eventbrite that gave you the meeting link. We've got roughly 20 people registered to join us today. If people miss it, it'll be okay. Okay, yes, you got the email, perfect. Okay, so if anybody misses out, it'll be okay because we are recording this session today. So because we are starting a little bit later than originally anticipated, I'm just going to hop right in. A couple of things before we get started. First thing is there are little question slides. So I'm going to try to get through the content and then I will open it up to questions so that you can ask any questions you have at that time. If you can wait until then to ask questions, it makes it a little bit easier for me to facilitate because then I don't have to scroll through the chat trying to find the questions for that specific section. Okay. The second thing is we always do a little giveaway at the end. So if you stay all the way to the end, you have a chance to win a prize. So I'm just going to go ahead and start sharing my screen so that we can get started. So I'm going to share this one. And you guys will just have to let me know if you can see my screen. Casey, if you can just give me a nod. Yeah? Okay, perfect. So this event is how to start selling online. I always have a little disclaimer for all of the trainings that I do to tell folks that I don't know how much money you'll make from launching any kind of store on any kind of e-commerce platform or marketplace. In fact, a lot of people will start this and then they won't actually make any money. And it's not necessarily because they suck at life or anything like that. It's just some people kind of start it and then hope that it sells itself. And we're going to go over some strategies today that will teach you why that's not necessarily the most appropriate. So that said, nothing in this training is going to guarantee you income or sales. What creates that income or those sales is the work that you do after the training ends. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and start out by introducing Casey, who will then introduce me. Hi, Casey.
Hi everyone. Oh, hang on 1 second. So you guys, that might be better if I had both in. So hi everyone. I'm Casey Rogerson, as you can see on the slide, Tourism Development Coordinator with Hastings County. And it's my pleasure to be able to work with Dionne today to have her talk about some of the e-commerce ideas out there. And I wanted to do a quick little shout out to the co-sponsors for this webinar, which is the Ontario's Highlands Tourism Organization, Regional Tourism Organization number 11, which covers majority of Hastings County. So they help partner with us to make sure that we could do webinars like this. And because I know we're crunched for time, I want to jump into introducing Dionne. So Dionne Baker is a self-proclaimed serial entrepreneur and digital marketplace expert, owner of Shop Boss Secrets and co-owner of Mommy Mops. She has over 63,000 sales on Shopify and Etsy combined. Dionne is also a partner at Ready Aim Scale, which is a monthly membership site teaching other business owners how to achieve their e-commerce goals. With her knowledge, experience, and keen eye for strategy, Dionne takes the guesswork out of what it really takes to create a successful online venture, teaching you where it's most important to spend your time and money and what areas to focus on for the most success.
Excellent.
So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. So if at any point you're having any kind of issue seeing my screen, please make sure that you just put that in the chat, and I will be checking the chat periodically. I've got these little breaks planned in. So first things first, what will you be learning today? The things you'll learn during today's training are the difference between selling on a marketplace and selling on your own website, what you need to plan in advance of getting started, the key elements of selling online that are crucial to your success, the minimum budget you need to have in order to get started. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Digital Main Street Grant the program that's available there, and the Shop Here program. And then also Casey's got a grant to tell you about as well. So I want this to be an interactive workshop. So that means participation definitely will get you entered to win the 1-hour consultation call with me at the end. So just make sure you can stay until the end and participate as much as possible, because that's what makes this fun. I can answer your questions, and then you can potentially get started faster than if we weren't participating and I'm talking to myself a lot of the time. So Casey did the little about me part, which is great. So we're just going to start with different approaches to e-commerce. I'm just going to very quickly let a couple more people in here. So in this section, we're going to learn about whether you want to launch your store on a marketplace or on a website. So what's the difference? This is a question I get from a lot of new folks who are starting. Marketplaces do an element of the marketing to shoppers for you. A marketplace often requires some form of payment to use it. So it's like 20 cents USD per listing on Etsy as an example. A marketplace also has different rules specific to each of the different marketplaces that govern the things that you can sell, how you're allowed to engage with customers, and the level of branding that you're able to put into your storefront. And marketplaces are a good fit for beginners because if you don't quite know how to drive traffic or to do digital marketing yet, because the marketplaces are already established in those areas and they're already spending advertising dollars to drive shoppers into those platforms, it's a great place for beginners to start. So when I say marketplace, I want you guys to think about it as places like Etsy, eBay, Amazon, and I have a whole slide that has a whole assortment of examples of marketplaces, but a marketplace versus a website, they're two completely different strategies when it comes to selling online. So what you get with a website is a platform that requires you to drive all of your own traffic or all of your own eyes, right? Like your social media followers or friends and family who might purchase from your business. You have to drive them to your website in order to get that website to convert. Also, websites can be fully branded to match an existing business that you're running. So if you're running a brick and mortar and COVID's happened and now you're like, okay, I really need to get into having an online presence and I don't quite know where to start, websites can allow you to have the exact same branding that you have in a brick and mortar business. Website platforms often require a monthly subscription fee to use them and an additional payment processing fees. So every single time a credit card is processed, there would be some payment processing fees associated with that. Separately from that, custom websites also require a hosting account sometimes, domain name registration, so your www.whatever your business name is .ca, and awareness of how to use the software well for search engine optimization purposes. So I'm just going to check really quickly. We've got a couple more people trying to get in. So some examples of marketplaces, and you might be familiar with some of these, right, are Etsy, eBay, Society6, Redbubble, Kindle Direct Publishing, Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, Amazon.com, Garage Sale, Depop, and Mercari. So all of these different marketplaces allow you as a seller to open up a store, upload some products, and engage with the customers that the marketplace is trying to attract on to shop. Some examples of website platforms are Shopify, Squarespace, Wix, GoDaddy, WooCommerce, BigCartel, Magento, sorry, I always say that wrong, BigCommerce, Weebly, and Volusion. So these are a little bit different in that they allow you to create your own online store, but it's not part of a larger organization. So when you create a store on these platforms, they don't do any marketing for you, they don't help you attract customers to the store. All of that kind of stuff is just on you. So I'm going to open it up for questions and I'm going to stop sharing and ask, are there any questions about marketplaces versus online stores? Just type in the chat if there are. You don't have to unmute yourself or share your screen or anything like that. And I think a lot of the time with Zoom meetings, there's a little bit of a delay. So I'm going to give it about a minute to see if there's any questions about the difference between marketplaces and website platforms. So I'm assuming there's no questions. So I'll start sharing again. So what do you actually need in order to get started? There are 5 key things that you'll need to have ready in order to start selling quickly, okay? And you want to plan out these things in advance to give yourself the best possible chance of getting through all of these little items before your launch day. So the first thing is you want to have a domain name. You want to research that the domain name you intend to use is available, and where it is available, just purchase it. You can purchase it on a site like namecheap.com or GoDaddy, any of the sites like Netfirms, Bluehost. There's a variety of different places that you can purchase them from. My personal favorite is Namecheap because I do find them the most cost effective, but you can purchase it from anywhere that sells domain names. You also need to know what product line you're going to lead with, including how you're going to basically show this product, whether it's going to be including photos, videos. You want to know what your price points are, and you want to have product descriptions that are readily available and easy for you to add into your Shopify store or whatever store you're starting. You want to have all of that done in advance because it will dramatically reduce the amount of time you spend doing your setup, okay? You also want to know what your shipping, delivery, or customer pickup solutions are going to be if it's a physical product. So if you're not a service-based seller, you intend to sell something like a mug like this one online and ship it to customers or allow them to pick it up. You want to know how you're going to manage all of that even before you start looking at what website solutions there are available to you. You want to know how you're going to drive traffic to your new online store. So if you don't have a great social media presence, but maybe you've got, some people who have subscribed to an email newsletter, and that's how you're intending to drive traffic. Or if you are going to rely on social media, you have to make sure that the audience that you're trying to serve is on the social media platform that you're actually trying to use, right? So I see this happen a lot, especially with beginners to online selling, is maybe they have a really great following over on Instagram and they open up a store and it's crickets in their store, right? And it's one of those things where sometimes it's just the demographic that is following you on Instagram isn't really super into online shopping, is maybe a little bit of a less tech savvy demographic and requires a little bit more hand-holding or explanation for them to start shopping online. Or it could be that, you see somebody started on something like Facebook, you've got a small following there, but it's just not converting for some reason. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as this training goes through. But one of the things you want to be thinking through in advance, of course, is how to drive the traffic to your store. And then the last thing is awareness of your platform of choices, terms of service. So this is what's going to outline what you can and cannot do using the software or the marketplace. So this is a big one. I know a lot of people find the terms of service documents that are available on the marketplaces and on the platforms to be a very boring, dry read. And they are boring and they are dry. But the reality is you need to at least give those things a cursory glance because there are certain things that certain marketplaces will not let you sell. So for instance, hair extensions. Some marketplaces look at hair extensions as human remains, right? And so if you're trying to build on one of those marketplaces, it will specify that in the terms of service. And then okay, well, if I have a hair extension business, I'm not obviously going to use this particular platform. So then there's other things you want to be thinking about in the beginning, again, before you get into starting the setup of your online store. And these are the 6 key areas that you're going to want to focus on if you want to have success inside of this store. So what are they? Traffic. Where's your traffic going to come from? How are you going to increase it over time? And what actions are you going to take consistently to ensure the long-term success of your website? 2 is customer service. What are all of your policies? Refunds, exchanges, shipping? How will you communicate if there's shipping delays due to COVID? How will you respond to both positive and negative reviews, or will you? And how will customers find out about all of the product details? It's amazing how sometimes it's the littlest details that get missed, especially when you're new to selling online. So things like, explaining the sizes accurately. So maybe you're selling shirts or apparel and you have 3X, 2X, all the way down to maybe like a size 2. Right? Well, what's the actual sizing of the garment? Because a 3X at your store might be a bit different than a 3X at Old Navy. Anything that you can do inside of your product descriptions to kind of give those details. And quite literally, the easiest thing in that example is to make a picture that shows how somebody might measure to understand where they would size at your specific store is going to be helpful, because customers don't like to reach out to you while they're shopping online. The whole shopping online experience is a very kind of personal, internalized experience. So if they can't find the answer to their question, the amount of customers that will actually go that next step and send you a message or an email asking are actually very few. In more cases, what will happen is somebody will just type in that same search in Google and go find their product somewhere else, so that they have limited interaction when they're shopping online. The other thing is your promotional strategy. So are you going to be offering free shipping on your website? Will you run sales promotions? If so, what are the details of your offers and what offers should be coming up next? Because you want to know what kinds of promotions and offers you're running so that you can actually pre-plan some of those things or get familiar with the tools inside of the software that you're using, whether it's a marketplace or it's a Shopify website. You want to be familiar with how you're actually going to run those sales, because they're nuanced. Each of the platforms does it differently. So you want to be well versed with all of the buttons, how they function, how the sale actually appears to your customers, all of that sort of stuff before you even start. The next thing is social media. So which platforms are you going to use? What kinds of things are you going to post to try to engage your audience? And what are your goals for using this platform over a different platform? And this kind of goes back to what I was speaking to a little bit earlier, where different customers subgroups are on different social media platforms, right? So for instance, TikTok is a huge thing right now. And TikTok, it kind of skews towards a younger demographic. It's usually, basically 30 or under that are the content creators for the things that are on TikTok. And you have a lot of different TikTok viewers. So you've got, a wider demographic in terms of the people who are actually viewing the TikToks. Some can be, as old as 65 or as young as, 10 and kind of looking at this on a tablet. But you want to make sure that if you're on TikTok, that you're part of the demographic of people who's actually creating these videos that are digestible and watchable. I have a little notification popping up here for me. So Lindsay is asking me a question. So about Shopify. So I will answer this question when we get to the next little questions round, but I will let you know. So then the next thing you want to be paying attention to is order management. How will you process online orders for pickup, shipping, or delivery? How many days from an order will this take? And will there be consistent shipping days, or are you going to ship every day of the week? You want to know these things in advance, because it can become challenging to kind of manage this kind of stuff if you haven't thought this through. So let's say you open up your Shopify store, your Etsy store, and just because the products that you're selling are amazing, all of a sudden you've got a bunch of different local orders. Well, that can quickly become overwhelming. Let's say you still have a brick and mortar that's open that you're working, and then you've got now your digital platform, and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, how much did these people pay for shipping? Is that enough to cover the cost of A, shipping, and B, the envelopes or the boxes that I need to ship my items? And then, if you're trying to do a curbside thing, do all of your employees know about it? How would somebody notify you that they're coming to pick something up? Or do you tell them what day and time? All of these sorts of things are things you want to be thinking through in advance to make this the smoothest possible transition into online selling as it can be for you. The last thing is relevance. So how are you planning to stay top of mind with your shoppers or with the people who visit your website? How often are you going to be stocking new items on your website? And how do you intend to grow your sales over time, right? These are all kind of basic and very broad categories, but you want to be thinking through these things before you even choose what platform you're starting with. And the reason is because there's different ways of doing this on each one of these platforms, some of which you might find easy and some of which you might find challenging based on the kind of business that you're running, right? So e-commerce isn't just for product specific businesses. It's for product businesses and of course services as well, like tourism, or maybe you're an esthetician or you're offering some sort of coaching program, right? So depending on those things, different platforms kind of cater to different kinds of businesses and help those businesses grow and thrive online much more quickly. So I'm going to open it back up to questions and I'm going to stop sharing and I'll go ahead and actually take Lindsay's question. So Lindsay said, do you have to buy a domain name if you're going to use Shopify? And the answer to that question is no, you don't have to buy a domain name if you're going to use Shopify. The thing is, if you're going to have a long-term strategy in sales for your online store, basically you'll want to have your domain name there because all of the SEO, the metadata, all of the stuff that happens kind of on the back end or behind the scenes as it is for digital, it will be linked to whatever the domain name is that's being presented to your customers. So let's say you start a Shopify, for instance, and you just kind of do the mybusinessname.myshopify.com, which is how Shopify kind of separates the stores on their platform. Let's say all of a sudden you're doing really well, 2 years down the line, you decide you'd like to buy the domain name and port it in. When people search for your domain, what's most likely going to happen is they're going to see that old big Shopify link. So it's traditionally better just to purchase the domain. I think lots of them, especially if you're doing a .ca, there's a lot of different registrars for domains where you can get these domains for like $14 or under $10. And it's just worth it to have for all of those downstream marketing initiatives. The other thing you want to be thinking about is if you ever intend to do printed things that you want to leave at maybe a brick and mortar business or that you want to take to a trade show and give to a customer, that Shopify domain is going to be really long, right? So that's another perfect reason to purchase a domain name is because you have a shorter thing that makes more sense to put on a business card or any kind of promotional materials that you might be printing to give out to people in person. So are there any other questions about the content so far? Just feel free to type your question in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing. So the next major question that we deal with is what should you budget to start out online? And there are a variety of different opinions on this, but there are some strategies that require low investment and others that require a higher spend, okay? So how much you should spend online mostly depends on you. Are you a tech savvy enough person to build out your own store, or do you need to hire a service like that out? When it comes to places like Shopify or even Squarespace, a professional build typically will start at around $1,000. I know Squarespace builds, I think it's the lowest one I've ever seen is around $2,000. So if you need to hire somebody to build this website for you to make sure that it's branded according to your tastes, you want to make sure you have that kind of a budget, at least $2,000 if you're on Squarespace, $1,000 and higher if you're on Shopify, to get that end result that you're looking for. The next question is kind of, do you intend to run ads to your store? So if you're intending to do Facebook boosts or Instagram ads or Google ads or anything like that, naturally that's budget that you have to be planning as part of your digital strategy. The advertising budgets, they do vary, but most people with small businesses are spending at least $200 a month if they're using an advertising strategy, whether that's boosting posts or that's actually creating ads from scratch on things like the Facebook and Instagram ad manager, doing Pinterest ads, or doing Google ads? Do you intend to have an email newsletter? And if so, will you manage it or will you hire a professional to manage it for you? Most email newsletter software programs like MailChimp or Aweber, ConvertKit, they are free up until a certain point. So with MailChimp, for example, you can have, I think it's 2,000 subscribers on your list before they actually start billing you on a monthly subscription to continue using their software, right? Some of the ones like Aweber, they're a little bit more expensive right out of the gate, and they're more, I guess, designed for people who have good awareness and good experience in email marketing, because it comes with a bunch more tools than something like MailChimp has, right? The next part of this kind of question is whether you intend to hire a professional to do this for you. So are you going to be the person who's going into your MailChimp and blasting out all of the subscribers, maybe bi-weekly, about what's in your store, what promotions are coming up? Or are you going to hire somebody else who's going to go ahead and set this up for you in an easy to follow way, right? So maybe someone's going to write out all of the content, send you a spreadsheet with the pictures, or send you the pictures that you can use, and then you're going to plug it all in to MailChimp yourself. Or there are services that are completely turnkey where you can hire somebody to do those email blasts for you on a monthly basis. If you're planning to promote your store in these ways, naturally there are costs associated, right? So I know email pros that start at about $40 an hour, and I know other ones that go all the way up to $90 an hour to manage people's email subscriptions. Then on top of that, there's your monthly fees, either subscription and payment processing fees or listing fees and payment processing fees, depending on what platform you've decided to go with. So even with something like Shopify, you're paying a monthly fee for Shopify. There's a whole app store available on Shopify that is meant to help you streamline some of your processes, but a lot of the apps that you'll use won't be free. They'll come with their own separate subscriptions. In addition, if you're planning on managing all of your shipping through Shopify, because they make it easy to do that, all of those shipping fees get tacked on when your card is charged at the end of every month. So instead of you paying for shipping right when you're shipping something out, you'll get a bill at the end of the month with all of your shipping, all of your app fees, and the Shopify subscription fee. And so you want to be cognizant of these things when you're going in. There's also fees paid for any apps, which I've just kind of gone over. Naturally, the product costs that you'll be bringing in to showcase in your online store. And then there's the shipping costs. And when I say shipping costs, we're not just talking about the actual cost to mail the item to the customer. We're also talking about things like inserts. So if you're going to put, a business card in there and envelopes, and if you need to wrap this up, all of that stuff you have to kind of qualify and quantify as part of your online selling budget, right? So how much should you spend to get started? What's the right answer here? For somebody tech savvy and able to run their own shop on a marketplace like Etsy, the cost can be as low as $100 a month, not including, of course, the products and the shipping. So that's just, Etsy ad fees, listing fees, that sort of thing, and their payment processing fees. For someone looking to have a custom website built from scratch, unless you're using the Shop Here program through Digital Main Street, which we'll go over closer to the end of this training, the initial setup cost can range from $1,000 to upwards of $10,000, depending on the kind of site that you're trying to build. And then the monthly costs from there are anywhere from $250 and up. And traditionally, that's because most people who are going to build you a custom Shopify are also going to build in some of those apps that I mentioned that are paid to make things a little bit easier for you going forward. So for average small businesses needing professional assistance to set these things up, the cost ranges from $2,000 to $5,000 to get started, and from $150 and higher every single month after that. Startup might be less for a service-based industry if somebody's going to make you something like a custom WooCommerce or just a landing page that you intend to run your business from. But for the full service setup of like a Shopify, a Squarespace, something that's a little bit more robust, you're looking at usually around $1,000 to 5,000 to get started. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the available grants, but I just want to pause really quickly and see if there's any questions. So I'm going to stop sharing. Are there any questions about the content that I've shared so far? Okay, so I will go back into sharing and we'll get into the grants. So where will you get that kind of money, right? So there are grant programs that are currently available for people inside of Ontario. One of them is the Digital Main Street Grant. Some of you might be aware of this program, while others of you might not be. Basically, what the Digital Main Street Grant is that it's a $2,500 or up to $2,500 grant for digital or web-based projects. So from here, it's a relatively quick and layman-friendly application and approval process. How this whole thing works is you go onto the digitalmainstreet.ca website, you basically register yourself, you read through the eligibility requirements, put in all of your information, then there are some training videos that they require you to watch before you can even get into the grant application place, okay? So then from there, once they've required you to watch those things and you had done them, there's a digital transformation plan that you have to download and fill out, and then you get to the actual application process. They also have this thing called the Shop Here program, and you can apply to have a custom website built for you by an expert, like a Shopify expert or a Google expert. And if you get approved for that program, that website will either be built for you at no cost, or if you are hands-on or are wanting to be a little bit more hands-on, it comes with some other really cool perks like one-on-one mentorship from some of the people who basically work at Google, Shopify, or the other apps that are partnered with Digital Main Street. You can learn more about that grant at Digital Main Street and more about the Shop Here program over there as well. I'm just going to stop for a second because I do see that there are some questions that have popped through. So Brenda says, I missed the beginning. Is there a way to rewatch your class? So I do record this, so it will be shared afterwards. I basically record the training and then upload it so that you can watch it later for sure. And I see that Casey answered that, but just in case anybody else had the same question and wasn't kind of looking at the chat, it makes sense. And then so I'm going to actually open it back up to you, Casey, to tell them about the next grant. So I will share again. And then we'll have you come back.
Okay, perfect. So the other grant that I wanted to touch on, and for the businesses that are in the Ontario's Highlands region, which is essentially, if you're in the Hastings County region or the Quinte region, that's the municipalities that are north of the 401. So Stirling, Madoc, Tweed, Marmora, all the way up to Bancroft and Maynooth, as well as other counties like Haliburton, Lennox and Addington, Frontenac, Lanark County, and Renfrew County. That's what makes up the region. So they have just released 2 new programs, one of which is the digital marketing program. And this is for small businesses. It is a grant, and it can be spent on anything that has to do with digital marketing. So it can be used to help with those startup costs for developing an e-commerce site. It could also be used for photography, videography. If you're looking to purchase software to help you go a little more virtually, you can, that's applicable as well. So this grant is open now. I believe, so the total amount for this program is $100,000, and I think currently it is 60% allocated. So there's 40% remaining, but there's still plenty of time. And this money can be spent up until September of 2021. So even if you're thinking about something for next year, this is something that you could apply for now and then be able to redeem next year when you finally dive into it, or when you start getting the project. So I highly recommend that you submit an application. It's very straightforward and simple. And because what the organization is trying to do is help as many businesses get online as quickly as possible, especially with COVID. So.
Awesome. So yeah, that's perfect. I did go ahead and just add in a little bit about their program here. So I think it's basically a repeat of everything that you just said, but I'm going to share my slides when this recording is put up as well, and the slides will be emailed out so that you guys can kind of follow some of these links. So just very quickly, I'm going to show you. I have so many different things. I think I actually have to share a different screen here to show you guys the grant that Casey was talking about. So they have this whole PDF, which I have linked to, that goes through all of your eligibility, the background, what you can use that specific grant for, and basically how to apply for it, right? All right here for you. So if you are interested, definitely check that out for tourism-based businesses. And then I'll show you separately here the Digital Main Street program and how this whole thing looks, because it is a really cool program. I know a lot of the people who applied last year basically and got the grant reapplied this year and were able to get it again. And they have no intention of stopping the grant program at any point in time. So as long as the funding remains obviously available from their partners, they'll continue to kind of allow this. So I'm going to show you just what their website looks like and where you would find the information for this specific grant program. So it's just digitalmainstreet.ca, right? Anytime you kind of hover a little higher on the page, like you're going to close the page, it pops up to show you all of these different things that you can do. But the two programs that you guys are probably going to be most interested in are the Shop Here program on this one and the grant program. And we'll just kind of open them up. Oh no, it won't let me open new tabs. Okay, I was going to open them up to show them, but we'll just kind of click through. So here it kind of shows you again the eligibility and what the benefits are. But I want to call your attention to this because it's actually kind of interesting if you don't have a website right now for your business and you need one. There's free one-on-one support with building and launching your online store. They actually also give you ad credits for Facebook and Google. You get a free .ca domain registration. And then if you click this little button that says many more benefits, there's this whole other list of benefits that come with the Digital Main Street Shop Here program. So as we're talking about budget, and I'm saying, it's $1,000 to $2,000 most of the time to get yourself all up and running with something like a custom Shopify or custom Squarespace. This is a huge benefit, right? Because not only could you apply for the grant, but if you work with one of their experts, you apply and you actually get picked to work with one of their experts, that cost goes away because it's part of the Shop Here program, right? So we'll look at that one. And then just really quickly, I'm going to show you the grant here. Right? So the Digital Transformation Grant Program is the one that you guys would be mostly applying for. And when you click to sign up, it basically prompts you to enter in all of your information. And then there's a little survey that you have to answer that goes through all of the things that you're doing in your business currently and all of the things that you're not doing in your business currently. And then basically from how you answer that initial questionnaire, they give you a little assessment that tells you what are your areas of focus, like what things are you doing well and what things do you need to work on. And then from there, like I said earlier, there's the training videos that you would be watching in order to learn some of the skills that you might not already have. And then the digital transformation plan, where they like to kind of see that you've applied some of these dollars, if you're going to apply for the grant, of course, to some of those areas that needed work in the initial questionnaire or the assessment part. And then they're saying up to 10 business days before you'll be notified whether you're approved or not, but they've been actually going really quickly. I've been helping a couple different people with their grant applications, and I've been seeing approvals come in at like 6 or 7 days. And then this year, because of COVID, there's actually a really cool addition. So like Last year, you had to wait for them to mail you a check so that you could get started. But this year, they've actually opened up where they will electronically transfer you the funds so that you can get started right away. So definitely really cool and interesting programs that are available to you if you don't have the budget. So we are actually way ahead of time. I kind of sped through some of this, trying to leave room for as many questions as possible. So I'd like to open it up and see if you guys have any specific questions that I have not answered about how to get started with selling online, like any burning questions at all. Feel free to just ask in the chat. And if not, I'll show you some strategies or some interesting businesses that are selling on Etsy and Shopify instead. And we'll just kind of look at the strategies that are in play right now that are helping those businesses be successful. So I'll give it a couple more seconds. And then I'll open up some screens here so I can show you guys what some of the local businesses in my area are doing that are really actually kind of fun and cool. And we have so not showing any questions, so I'll just go ahead and I'll show you some of the businesses local to me that are presently working like their businesses online. So one of the main ones, which I think a lot of people are often aware of, is the Dahlia May Flower Farm. And so obviously when the pandemic hit, this farm was impacted just as the rest of us business owners were in the area, and really had to pivot in order to make sure that the flowers still were sent out, that basically the business just wasn't hurt, and was very open about a lot of what she experienced during this process. If we're looking at this in terms of a website setup, replicating something like this, like if you're maybe a farm and you're looking to figure out, well, maybe I can attract some customers online and they can purchase from me, or like purchase some inventory or maybe some form of subscription box. And then I have to figure out how I'm delivering this, how I'm getting this out to them. The Dahlia May strategy is definitely one that could work for your business, in that naturally she's selling flowers and floral arrangements that are pre-made. She has a little farm stand that she opens up, and then it's social distanced, right? People come and pick up, they can order online or have their things delivered. And I believe for a lot of the time this year, she was offering free delivery services if you placed your orders by a certain time in the day. So basically, if you're a service-based, or this is technically product-based, but it's not your traditional web product, right? So if you're in the same boat where you don't have a traditional web product, like, you know, a mug or shirts or beauty products or something like that, this is a great strategy to try and replicate in your own business, right? Where she's showing beautiful pictures. She really works her social media a lot. So she's basically attracting an audience by telling stories about what's happening with her business, what's happening with the flowers, and just sharing all of these beautiful things in order to kind of start the conversation with the customers, right? Another person who is actually working their online store as well is the Vintage Junction in Sterling. So that's very close to where I am. And so this is a Shopify website, as was the Dahlia May Flower Farms. And you can see there's a variety of different little collections here for people to shop online, right? So when you click in, you're seeing rustic farmhouse things. Let's see, vintage and shabby chic. I think they're kind of out. Oops. Well, we've got the rustic farmhouse things that are mostly online right now, but then if there was workshops or events that were coming up, those would also be posted here on this site. And I know the owner of this business, Lisa, as well, also uses social media through her Facebook to sell things. She'll sometimes post them on the website and they'll sell that way, or she'll sell them directly right off of her social media pages. There's one more that I want to share with you. but I'm just gonna have to pull this down really quickly to show you. I think it is, hold on, I'll stop the share and I'll see, because I'm not quite sure what the new domain name was. So I'm just gonna make sure I've got it right. Takes a second to load. Oh, yep. Okay, perfect. So I'll go ahead and share. So is Vivacious Clothing and Day Spa, right? So basically at the beginning of the pandemic, Vivacious naturally, like a lot of businesses, had to be closed as part of the, well, what people call the lockdown, but as part of trying to shorten the curve or stop the spread of COVID, right? So during that time, Angela from Vivacious reached out to me and she said, I have this website, it doesn't work for me, I don't really get sales on it, how can I make this thing better? And so this is a now brand new Shopify website that she's using. Naturally, things lifted and the store is back open. But I was talking with Angela yesterday and she was saying one of the things that's been really helpful is that the Shopify platform for her, she finds it a lot easier than the platform that she was using before to just understand how to list new products, how to, price things out appropriately, and how to make sure that the products all organize themselves into different collections, right? So you're seeing the strategy here has become a little bit different if you're familiar with this website or if you've been on it before. Separately from that, she's gone ahead and she's implemented different kinds of services, like customer service things. So you can do a curbside pickup if you order something on the store. She will also offer free local delivery. So again, if you make a purchase on the web store, you're not necessarily having to pay for the shipping. And then there are shipping options available as well if you've got something in your cart from her. But one of the key strategies that I kind of wanted to highlight that she's using on this new store is she's making it very easy for her customers to find exactly what they want. And when I'm talking about new stores that are online, a lot of the time business owners are so kind of pressed for time, right? Like you're rushing to get your website up, you're trying to learn maybe a new program or elements of this new platform that you're trying to sell on, and because you're rushed and because you don't quite know yet what you don't know, little things like this become a struggle for your customers. So on the old website for Vivacious, there was very little organization in terms of style of clothing. So we would see, if we clicked on something that said accessories, for instance, we would see all of the accessories available in the shop just kind of filter into one giant screen. And then there's pages and pages and pages of things that your customers have to kind of look through in order to try and figure out how to get something that they want. The strategy that we've put in place now is a little bit different, where they can kind of shop by the style that they're trying to achieve, right? So whether it's bold and edgy or trendy comfort, upscale casual, upscale formal, business formal, or country club casual, basically people can click on one of these little buttons and kind of see a whole collection that is comfortable, right? So you're not necessarily having to filter through a bunch of things that don't fit that style. So these are kinds of things that you want to be thinking about when you're thinking about having an online site, is how you're going to organize your products to make it as easy for your customers to find exactly what they're looking for, purchase, and check out. So just in addition, obviously, to the strategies when it comes to what you're going to be using for traffic, to generate that traffic, what kinds of social tools you're going to be using, and then what budget you have. But you're seeing, all of the comfort and cozy things are in the appropriate place, which makes it really simple for her customers to shop. And one of the things that we did here as well was we also made the same function available in the top part of her navigation. So if somebody clicks on this and then says, okay, well, now I need to shop for an upscale event that's happening, they can kind of change categories from wherever they are on the site. So these are the kinds of things that as a new person, you might not be thinking through, but I'm hoping after today, you will start thinking through, because it makes a big difference to the sales and to how long the customers are actually going to spend on your site. If you make it challenging for people to find exactly what they want, a lot of the time that will contribute to what's called a high bounce rate, which means somebody will come onto the site, click a few buttons, and then just leave the site without making any kind of purchase. So you have to be thinking, okay, in terms of structure, organization, the foot that I want to put forward, how does all of this work? Another thing that I really do enjoy about Angela's shop is, I believe we put it, might actually not be here, is that there's an easy place to understand all of the shipping and returns that are happening, like how to actually go through that process. And that's another big thing that new people to selling online often forget to include, right? You want to make sure that there is a very transparent return and exchange policy posted. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take returns and exchanges, but you want that policy posted so that it's clear for customers to be able to find that information. So a lot of the times I will tell people, if you're going to be hosting your own website, if we just look at any one of these products, another great place to put that information is in their description, just a little link to it in their product description saying, I'm worried about returns or whatever. And then the link right here will take them to that page so that it's very clear and easy for customers to understand, can these things be returned or exchanged if I accidentally purchased the wrong size? So again, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to see if there's any other questions. We've got a quiet group today. Normally I've got like 10 or 15 different questions by this point. Is there anything that you'd like me to talk about or cover that I haven't yet? How about that? I'll ask you a question. And then you guys can let me know by just answering in the chat there. If not, I'll take you over to Etsy and I'll show you how the strategy for sales differs across a platform like Shopify versus a platform like Etsy. So any recommendations for newbies around the holidays? Basically, if you're brand new to selling online for the holidays, my biggest thing is to pay attention to the cutoffs for shipping and pickups. This is one of the huge mistakes that I see new sellers make, and it's an honest mistake, right? If you have never actually sold stuff online and had to ship it before, how are you going to know? It's one of those things that you don't know what you don't know. So every single year, all of the big shipping providers actually post their holiday delivery deadlines. Usually middle of October, those things are posted so that sellers know, okay, you have to order by a certain specific date in order for that delivery to have a chance of arriving before Christmas, right? So I would say if you just Google, holiday deadlines for Canada Post, if you're only intending to ship inside of Canada, or holiday deadlines for Purelator or FedEx or whatever, you'll be able to find a lot of really valid information about when your order cutoff date should be, when you're going to go ahead and be shipping these items out. Another thing that you want to be paying attention to this year is if you are kind of like somebody who is crafting and making things to sell, obviously, due to COVID, supply chain issues are a very present thing. I'm a coach right now. It's actually just wrapping up at this training course. It's called the Etsy Challenge, where we have roughly 200 people this year who are basically trying to be successful on Etsy. So they've joined us to try and learn tips and tricks and strategies for them to have the most success this year on Etsy. And so part of that is understanding the supply chain issues and being as communicative as possible, as open as possible with your customers and your policies, in your listing descriptions, in your shipping notifications, all of that kind of stuff, telling people that, you know what, things are going to be delayed. Most people, because we've been in this pandemic for a little while now, have that understanding, but you still do have the shoppers out there who are maybe brand new to online shopping. and this is their first order that they've made online, and they might not have realistic expectations of when things are shipping because they haven't had this experience yet, right? So you want to be making sure that you're calling out any kind of potential for delays, that you've got a very clear policy for your customers to find on refunds and exchanges, and that basically you're making sure that you're trying your best to manage what inventory shortages are happening in your realm right now that might be impactful for your customers. So then Lindsay says, what's the best way to estimate shipping costs for items to set your price for it? So I know inside of Shopify, they actually ask you basically to weigh your garments on every single product. So like if you're selling, let's say, t-shirts, right? On every single product, in every single listing on Shopify, there is a spot that you can specify the weight of that product. And then based on that weight, they actually calculate it directly with Canada Post. And because Shopify and Canada Post have partnered, you're also getting a discount on the label or like the shipping expense when you actually purchase the label through your Shopify. So that's one easy way. You can just kind of have your little weights there for your garments and like add a bunch of things to cart and kind of click the button to check out. My strategy on Shopify is different than that. I've never really loved the whole carrier calculated thing. So for me, I was always trying to encourage people to shop over a certain amount and then shipping would be included. So depending on the margins that you have for the items you intend to sell, that might be a strategy that you can use as well. How I found it worked best was to kind of bundle up a couple different products. So I would have solo products available on each of the listings in my Shopify store. And then I would also have bundles of like 2 or more of those products or 3 or more of those products, again, with the end result of making it easier for the customers to buy exactly what they wanted, get in and out very quickly from my site, right? And part of the reason I say that is because we're seeing a lot more impulse shopping. So naturally at this time of year, impulse shopping really becomes a big thing. But because so many people are self-isolating and are at home, we're also seeing a lot of impulse purchases as a trend in general this year, well over what we were seeing this exact same time last year, right? So when we're talking about making it as easy as possible for your customers to get exactly what they want, literally that's doing these bundles, that's having options for them to shop by their style or, you know, shop by the look or like maybe even shop your Instagram feed, because we're seeing that people are just impulse buying whatever they see that kind of speaks to them in the moment. And naturally also we're seeing certain product trends this year that weren't present last year, or I shouldn't say weren't present, but like were not necessarily as big a deal coming into Q4 as they were last year. So one of those big things is home decor, right? So, you know, lumber was out at a bunch of different places over the summer because everyone's improving their home. As we get into these colder months, it's going to be the home decor stuff, the holiday decor, because people are at home more, they're wanting to enjoy their spaces more, right? So already trending more than was last year are like the Christmas decorations, the farmhouse rustic things, you know, cutting boards that are customized, all of those sorts of products are doing really well on both marketplaces and standalone websites right now for that specific reason. People are really trying to enjoy their spaces more. And if they were putting off some sort of renovation or remodel project, now is the perfect time for them to do it. So another question, Anthony says, I volunteer in fundraising for the Central Hastings Support Network, the Madoc Food Bank. We are thinking of replacing our annual art auction with some kind of online selling art. Do you think this is relevant to a nonprofit organization? Absolutely. So in this case, you could use a marketplace or a platform like Shopify, branded out, in order to kind of really give this fun experience, right, of this art auction. Like it could still, I believe there's apps that actually turn your stores into auction or make it possible for these to be an auction that's happening inside of your store. like blind auctions and stuff like that. But if you're a little less tech savvy and you're like, I don't really know about all these apps, and you also want to be mindful of the budget, you could literally just kind of launch this art store. You're a nonprofit. You say you're a nonprofit. Obviously, as a nonprofit, I would believe that people would probably get, well, maybe that's a registered charity, but if you do the tax receipts, it's an opportunity for you to say that when people are purchasing this art. And it's an easy way, it's an easy win for somebody who would normally be supporting you by coming to your in-person events to still support you online, right? Because those events can't happen this year or might be completely different than they were last year. So I think that's completely a great strategy. Are there any other questions? If not, I'll show you some things that we're seeing trend on Etsy right now. And I had shared this a little bit with my students in the Etsy challenge this year. And I had shared it before it was trending. I said, oh guys, this is gonna trend. And I actually got a groan from some people. They were like, Dionne, you're nuts. But now it's trending, so who's nuts really? Right? I won. So I'll show you just on Etsy, because what I find for the most part is there's usually two different approaches here to shops, right? And so I find a lot of the time what we're seeing is shop owners want to be on something like Shopify. I think second place is usually Squarespace or Big Cartel. I see a lot of those two sites. And then I see Etsy shops all day long. And I think it's because of the ease of selling on those specific platforms. It attracts a bunch of different kinds of eyes, okay? So I'm gonna share you my screen here to show you a little bit about Etsy. So I'm just here on the Etsy homepage. I think I am. Yeah, and so all of the things that I search as part of teaching people how to do certain things online kind of show up in that top part. But Etsy really does invest a lot of time and energy and money into creating these beautiful landing page experiences for shoppers. More than that, they invest a lot of time and money into doing the marketing for you a little bit. So if you have a handmade business, if you have a vintage resale business, something like that, Etsy is definitely a great option for you. But again, you want to spend the appropriate amount of time kind of learning this platform, learning the algorithm, learning how Etsy wants you as a seller to behave in their kind of little mall, their digital mall, right? So we're looking here and we're just kind of seeing what the page looks like. One of the major things that started trending this year, again, ahead of other things, was care packages. We'll just actually do care packages. So you'll see when I start to type into the Etsy search bar, it shows me what other people have been searching for, if some of these terms match. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I started thinking, you know what, people are gonna probably need care packages at some point. And there's always been care packages available on Etsy, but then they started crazy. They started booming like nuts this year, obviously because people can't travel, people can't socialize. And for the extroverted people of the world, that's really challenging, right? Like they want to be around their social groups and having fun. So we're seeing this trend of care packages, like just little boxes of goodies being sent out. And right now, what's happening in the marketplace, because it looks like, well, for some people in some areas, that those restrictions have been reinstated, right? So like instead of being able to go to a restaurant or a gym or something like that, because the cases are on the rise, they're restricted. They're back to kind of mostly having to social distance if they weren't continuing to social distance during this entire time. So these care packages have started booming in terms of relevant searches that we're seeing when we do some research and sales, right? So the cool thing here on Etsy is when your specific item starts to boom, they give you this little bestseller badge. Okay, so if we look at something like this, if you're running any kind of small business, even if it was like a tourist-based business before, right? Like most tourism experiences have a gift shop option or something like that. You could be creating your own little branded gift shop like option online, right? Gift shop care package from whatever your tourism thing um, might be, right? And it's not super challenging. Here we're seeing, this gift box is showing at $42 US, and there's not a crazy amount of things in it, right? Like there's really 7 things. It's cutely packaged, but it looks like a lot of those things are actually just literally made at home. Like this candle could have been a handmade poured candle, all natural loofah soap. It looks like these things are things that, this organic place is actually making. So if I just click on that to see if I'm right, I am right. So we're seeing they make a bunch of candles. They've got like organic gifts, spa gift sets, all of that sort of thing. So like this person probably makes all of these things and is now adding them into care packages. And as you can see, what I'm telling you is absolutely true about these things being super popular right now, in that 3 people have this in their basket, 9 people have this, 20 people have this one. So if you can kind of start to think about, as a small business, how can you adapt to get in on some of these trending things, that's going to be a huge benefit to you long term, especially if you're looking at selling on a platform like Etsy, who's driving the traffic, right? Etsy's sending a lot of ads. They do TV ads now to try and get people onto the platform to shop. And a lot of the time that results in quick, easy growth, because you're not having to learn at the same time that you're learning a platform how to also monetize that platform. So I'm going to stop sharing again. We've got 8 minutes left. So if there are any other questions that you guys have that are burning questions that you want me to answer, now would be the time to do it, because I'm happy to help with anything specific. In the meantime, I'll just keep talking. So I think to kind of further expand on the question that Casey asked about newbies for the holiday season, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is a huge shopping event everywhere. It never used to be as huge when I was growing up, but over these last couple of years, for sure, it's been a huge, huge event. It's bigger than Boxing Day for a lot of different stores, right? So if you don't already have a plan, specifically in place for a promotional strategy for your either brick and mortar store or an online store, how you're going to drive some sales for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I would start actually planning that kind of thing right now. And then what you can do is literally just Google, like HubSpot is a great resource for anyone who's new. They have a whole bunch of free content and free mini courses that you can take that will help you figure out how to make a promotional calendar, how to figure out different niches that you can sell to, all of that kind of stuff. And I mean, they're put on by experts, like people who are actually selling online, so they know what they're talking about. Separately from that, I think this whole idea of shop local, buy local has been gaining some traction as the pandemic has kind of continued, right? In the very beginning, we saw, businesses have to be closed. And for people who live in these communities and maybe know these business owners, or you guys, right? Know you guys and know your kids or things like that. We want to support our local businesses. The thing that makes it challenging is if we're social distancing and we're not actually physically able to be going out into stores, which, we're looking at rural populations, which are sometimes senior populations who might have immunocompromised issues, who might not be as comfortable shopping in store as they were prior to the pandemic. If you don't have an online presence, how are those people going to be able to support you, right? So right now, I would say if you're kind of struggling with what path to go down, and there's 2 options. There's the option of just putting up exactly, a subset of the items that you have in a brick and mortar business, or the option of starting something completely new and trying to dive in to get your feet wet in a more, I guess, North American strategy, like where maybe you're going to ship stuff to the States, you're going to work with maybe a print on demand company like Printful to like make some custom items and things like that. I would say the better strategy is to really focus on the local business, because as naturally we get closer to the holiday season, people are going to be buying gifts. People want to still buy those very one-of-a-kind local things, right? So if you can get yourself even just a small setup with maybe even 10 or 15 products at a time so that you can get your feet wet now, by the time we hit Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you might be seeing a big boost in your volume, because for us here in Canada, naturally, it's not Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's already passed. So like all we're doing right now is looking at Halloween shopping if we haven't got all of our Halloween stuff together, and then holiday shopping. So a couple of other questions. So Brenda says, could you show what you were going to show about the Shopify site that you talked about? I can't remember exactly what I didn't show. I think I was showing you guys on the Vivacious site how we were talking about putting things in groups, or are you saying to show my Shopify site exactly? I'm not sure. Let me know, Brenda. And then Summer says, is one better than the other, Shopify or Etsy? And the answer is honestly no. It really comes down to what you have the time to learn, how tech savvy you are, and whether you have the ability to drive some traffic through your website pretty quickly. So you might be somebody, Summer, who already has a great Instagram following or a great Pinterest following, something like that. So when you set up a website, it's easy for you to drive traffic to that website, just leveraging the things that you're already doing well, right? But if you're brand new, you don't have a business yet, maybe you've just registered and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, where should I go? What should I do? And how do I learn how to do all of these things? Something like Etsy, I always say, is a good starting step. And the reason for that is because the investment is so minimal. To list a product on Etsy, it costs you 20 cents American, right? So even if you list 30 products, the cost of that is pretty low. And Etsy's driving traffic, right? So the chances of you just getting organic sales from having products inside of your Etsy store is actually pretty high. When we look at something like Shopify, if you were just to put up a Shopify site today, nobody's going to know where to find you unless you're doing something to tell people, okay, here, this is where you can buy this. This is where you can find all of our other little collections. Unless you've already got some sort of customer relationship happening, or you know how to drive some marketing through ads through that website to start getting some sales, right? So when I'm teaching my students, I always say, starting with a platform like Etsy, or even something like Merch by Amazon. I know we didn't cover this, but like on Merch by Amazon, if you have a good ability to be a graphic designer or just manipulate text using even something like Canva, you can design shirts, apply for a merch account on Amazon, and quite literally, you can design a whole bunch of apparel items, and as soon as they sell, Amazon pays you a commission, right? And it's easy. It's easy for you to kind of get your feet wet with designing products, seeing what people like, learning how to do research, like a deep dive into the research for keywords that people use to search for things, or what things are trending at what points in the year and why, and then graduate into an Etsy store. And then once your Etsy store is doing well, I always say, once you hit the point on Etsy where you're making maybe 40 or 50 sales a day, at that point, now it's time for you to kind of graduate into Shopify if you're brand new and you're kind of learning as you go, because you're at that 40 or 50 sales a day, you're paying a lot of Etsy fees that could be better served doing your own ads. So it's not necessarily that one is better than the other. It's just they're different based on basically your skill set and your ability to get the customers onto either platform. Okay, so Brenda's saying, I said, if I have no questions, I'll show you around Shopify. Oh, right, on the back end of Shopify. But now we're at 3 o'clock. So I'm sorry about that. I do have a setup, a free Shopify setup, which will actually show you the back end of Shopify in its entirety, from like how to get set up and registered to how to link a domain name to how to create all sorts of different kinds of products. That is free, and I will show you the link for that so that you can actually sign up and access that if you're interested in kind of seeing the back end of Shopify and seeing how it works to understand if it could work for your business. And then the last question here is from Stephanie. So she says, on Etsy, how do you get to the bestseller and some other badges that the editors pick? So the really cool thing about Etsy is they have this whole blog section where the editors, the social media team, all of the people who actually write the blogs in that section are workers that work at Etsy and are the people that are responsible for featuring the sellers that are putting things on Etsy. So every now and again, they'll post something new that says, oh, want to be featured on our social media? Here's how you have the best chance of doing that. Or, you know, want to capitalize on holiday trends? Look at our holiday trend list and see what shoppers are actually buying right now. So Etsy really does try hard to make sure that the sellers there have all of the information at their fingertips in order to be successful. In order to get that best-selling rank, they don't actually tell you exactly how many sales you need, but you have to be a top seller in that category for that item, okay? So that might sound like it's super challenging, but it's honestly not as challenging as you might think it is. One of the key things that you can do on Etsy to ensure that you have the better chance of getting that bestseller badge is doing keyword research. The easiest and most friendly place to do your keyword research, so to research what words people are actually typing into the Etsy search bar and what products are coming up as a result of those terms that they have typed in, is to use a free tool called erank.com. And so if you're planning on going in selling a certain type of product, you can just literally search the terms that you think people would type into the search bar to try and find that specific product. And it will tell you a whole assortment of other terms that you might use. It will tell you things like what the lowest cost item in that category is versus the highest cost item is, who are the best sellers, all of that kind of stuff. So once you've done that level of research, you've got a great idea in terms of how you're going to title your products, how you're going to tag them, what photos seem to do the best. And then you're basically just going to mimic those success strategies in your own store. Take similar photos of your own items, you know, use similar search terms to kind of title your things, make sure your price point kind of falls somewhere in the middle. It's not the most expensive, but it's not the cheapest either. And then honestly, a lot of the time you can just get organic traction doing that without even having to push to social media or run any kind of ad. So this brings us to 304. I know we got started a little bit late today, just because I'm assuming the email from Eventbrite might have been a little delayed or something. But that being said, I do want to thank you for spending this time with us. I'm going to just really quickly run through the giveaway. And the winner of the giveaway will get a 1-hour consultation call with me. I have your email address already as you registered for the event. So if you win, I will be able to email you and then we can set up a time. But if you would like to be entered to win, I'm just going to pick a number very quickly between 1 and 40. Okay, and just give me a second to send this number to Casey. So I've picked a number between 1 and 40, and you can start guessing. Guess what the number is between 1 and 40. The first person who gets it will be able to win the coaching call. So you can start guessing it right now. Brenda, second guess right there. So congratulations, Brenda. I will reach out and I will let you know how you can claim that coaching call. And then just very quickly before we leave, I'm going to show you where else you might be able to find me if you feel so inclined later. So let me just pop that back open. Where am I here? It's not showing me. Oh, because I have to. Okay. Am I sharing? So here's where you can find me if you have questions for me later, if you want to kind of see some of the other things that I'm doing. This is my business Facebook page, and then I'm also on Ready Aim Scales, one of the coaches over there, and we talk about everything from Shopify to Etsy, Amazon, Kindle Direct Publishing, Merch by Amazon, Redbubble, basically all of the platforms that you might want to sell on. We cover it in our coaching calls that happen weekly. And there's also a free training library over there that you can access to learn how to do some cool things. So thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that this has been an informative training for you. Oh, yep. So Brenda's asking me really quickly before we end if I can just share the Shopify link. I'm actually going to send it to you right now, Brenda, because I'm going to email you anyway about your coaching call. Okay, so I'm going to end the meeting now. Thank you guys for attending.